in the gentle stillness of a quiet night, as the soft wind rustles through unseen trees and the world settles into slumber, there are moments in anime that feel like warm blankets draped over tired shoulders, small windows of peace amidst the chaos of story and conflict. These are not the grand battles or the heart-wrenching farewells, but the tiny breaths in between. A bowl of ramen shared in silence, a quiet walk beneath cherry blossoms, a lingering glance between friends who understand each other without speaking. In these moments, the world slows down, and something delicate and sacred emerges, a kind of peace that stays with you long after the credits roll. And tonight, as you close your eyes and let the soft rhythm of these stories lull you into stillness, let us walk through some of the coziest, most comforting moments anime has to offer. The first of these moments drifts into view, like steam from a cup of tea, a simple morning in the countryside, where time moves slower than in the cities, and every breath feels cleaner, lighter. It's the kind of morning you find in My Neighbor Totoro, where the air is thick with the hum of cicadas and the laughter of children. Satsuki and Mei run barefoot through the grass, their voices dancing across the landscape like sunlight on dew. There is no danger here, no urgency, only discovery. The comfort of this world lies in its ordinariness, hanging laundry on a line, watching soot sprites scurry away, standing beside your sister in the tall grass while the trees sway gently above. It is a world that feels untouched by fear, where the biggest worry is when the next bath will be ready. This kind of calm, steeped in sunlight and the quiet creak of floorboards, is rare. And in that rarity lies its beauty. Another gentle moment unfolds in the sleepy stillness of Barakamon, where a calligrapher named Honda finds himself slowly unraveling in the best possible way on a remote island. One afternoon, the wind carries the scent of the ocean through an open window, and he sits quietly, brush in hand, the laughter of children echoing distantly outside. In this place where nothing much seems to happen, everything changes. There's no grand epiphany, no storm of emotion, only a quiet meal with neighbors, a walk through damp grass, a small child falling asleep in your lap while the sun sets behind the hills. It is in these fragments that we find rest, that we remember we are part of something slower, something older. Honda's transformation is not dramatic, but deeply human. The island doesn't fix him. It simply allows him to breathe. And then, somewhere far from the ocean, but close to the heart, we step into the cozy warmth of laid-back camp. The sun is low, casting everything in golden hues, and Rin sits beside a small campfire by the lakeside. The pot boils softly, sending puffs of steam into the cold morning air. Behind her, Mount Fuji stands in quiet majesty. There is no dialogue here, no pressing plot, just the crackle of firewood and the rhythmic pull of breath. The real magic of this scene is in its simplicity. A thermos is opened. A scarf is adjusted. A deep sigh escapes as a mouthful of warm food is taken. It is a reminder that peace doesn't need explanation. It only needs presence. These are the scenes that linger, the ones that don't rush to conclusions or twist into dramatic revelations. They exist like the steady ticking of a clock in a quiet room, or the way morning light falls across a wooden floor. And in this first stretch of our journey through comfort, these moments become soft stepping stones into rest, each one more tender than the last. We close this part with a gentle return to Clanad, after story, where the warmth of a small, dimly lit room cradles Tomoya and Ushio as they sleep side by side in a countryside inn. The rain taps softly on the roof outside, and for once, the heartache that defines so much of their journey fades into the hush of sleep and the closeness of family. There are no words, just the subtle rise and fall of breath, the small hand of a child resting in her father's palm, the unspoken comfort of knowing that in this moment they are safe. And maybe that's what makes a cozy moment so precious. Not its length, not its setting, but the way it holds a kind of fragile peace that asks for nothing in return. Let your breath slow with the rhythm of these memories. Let the images unfold like petals of a soft dream, delicate and light. For in these quiet corners of anime, we are reminded that stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise, comfort without demand, a kind of magic that cannot be summoned, only welcomed. And so, we drift deeper into these stories, following the thread of coziness, wherever it may lead, somewhere between a steaming bowl of miso ramen and the lazy buzz of cicadas under a blue summer sky. We find another whisper of peace, nestled in the gentle heart of anime. In Barakamon, a show that dances with the simplicity of country life, there's a moment where Seishu Handa, the perfectionist calligrapher, sits under the open sky with Naru, the mischievous little girl who's become an unexpected friend. The sea stretches before them in an unbroken band of shimmering blue, while seagulls cry out overhead, and the world feels suspended in time. The waves roll in with a soothing rhythm, brushing against the rocks below with the same steady beat as the slow inhale and exhale of a resting soul. For a man who's always chased approval and artistic perfection, this quiet moment is a soft exhale, the beginning of learning to simply exist, without pressure, without judgment. It is here, on that sun-warmed cliffside, with laughter dancing lightly on the wind, that he begins to let go. The peaceful hush of nature, the faint hum of insects, and the warm presence of a child who doesn't expect anything grand from him, only his company, wrap the viewer in a gentle, cozy stillness that lingers long after the episode fades to black. Further down the winding road of comfort, There's a moment in March, comes in like a lion, that glows like a candle in the darkness. Rei Kiriyama, a boy whose life has been shaped by loss, isolation, and the quiet burden of genius, finds solace not in grand victories or dramatic revelations, but in something far more tender. In the soft kitchen light of the Kawamoto sisters' home, with the smell of freshly cooked food in the air and the soft clinking of dishes, Rei finds a place where he's allowed to be simply human. There's no need for explanation, no demand for brilliance, only the small comforts of being asked if he wants seconds, of hearing someone call his name with kindness, of watching Hina excitedly describe her day. These domestic scenes, so small and ordinary, hold the extraordinary power of healing. The warmth of the tatami mats, the steam rising from a bowl of miso soup, the gentle laugh of Akari as she tends to everyone. It's not just Rei who is comforted. The viewer, too, is drawn into that living room, wrapped in the emotional safety of genuine, unspoken love. This is the kind of moment that doesn't ask for attention, but instead invites quiet appreciation, like falling asleep to the sound of rain tapping softly on the window pane. And then, with a change of scenery and tone, we find ourselves floating gently alongside My Neighbor Totoro, where the concept of coziness is woven into the very fabric of the film. One of its most famous scenes, a simple act of waiting at a bus stop during a rainstorm, becomes a quiet ode to patience, presence, and the magic hidden in the everyday. Mei and Satsuki, soaked from the rain, stand with their father's umbrella held high, while the great forest spirit Totoro appears beside them without fanfare. He's massive, strange, and oddly serene, clutching a tiny leaf on his head for cover. The silence is nearly total, save for the rhythmic patter of raindrops and the occasional distant croak of frogs. No dialogue is needed. The moment unfolds in quiet companionship as Totoro receives the umbrella, experiences rain in a new way, and thanks the girls with a gift of acorns. There is something dreamlike and wonderfully still about this scene, something that feels like the world pausing for a single sacred breath. It's not the grand arrival of a hero or a climactic turning point. It's just children in the rain, a forest spirit with wide eyes, and the comfort of sharing shelter. Watching it feels like being wrapped in a warm blanket of memory, where the details blur into something soft and golden in another corner of calm. Laid-back camp offers an experience so gentle, it's almost therapeutic. The show follows a group of girls who find joy in solo and group camping, and the entire series unfolds like a collection of peaceful sighs. In one scene, Rin, the quietly independent camper, sets up her tent near a serene lake with snow-dusted mountains in the distance. As night falls, she stokes a small fire and prepares a warm meal of curry noodles. The orange glow of the flames flickers against her tent, her breath visible in the cold night air. There's no need for drama, just the gentle sounds of the fire crackling, wind moving softly through the trees, and Rin's quiet appreciation for solitude. She sips her soup slowly, her expression content, her phone lighting up briefly with a friendly message. The sky above is a blanket of stars, and the lake mirrors every twinkle. This moment, like many in laid-back camp, doesn't demand anything from the viewer. It simply invites you to breathe, to be still, to enjoy the smell of broth and the warmth of a campfire, even through a screen. All of these moments, from the countryside laughter of Barakamon, to the rainy magic of Totoro, to the flickering campfires of laid-back camp, have something quietly powerful in common. They don't try to impress. They don't move quickly. They don't shout. Instead, they offer space to rest, a place to wander without urgency, a pause button for the soul. These are scenes crafted not to jolt or thrill, but to comfort and soothe, to remind us of the profound beauty in the little things, in the quiet seconds between chaos. And as we drift deeper into this journey of cozy memories, we begin to feel the lull of their rhythm, a soft melody carried on the wind, the kind of lullaby that asks nothing of us but to close our eyes, breathe gently, and allow the quiet magic of anime's gentlest moments to carry us just a little closer to sleep in the gentle warmth of a sunlit room, surrounded by drifting dust motes and the soft creak of wooden floors. There lies a kind of peace that few moments can rival, and Fruit's basket, with all its emotional weight and quiet vulnerability, often captures this kind of soft stillness with delicate grace. One such moment comes not during a major revelation or dramatic conflict, but in the tender aftermath, when Toru Honda, with her endlessly kind heart, sits beneath the blooming cherry blossoms beside Kyo. The pink petals flutter through the air like confetti made of dreams, settling on her shoulders as she listens, not with urgency or pressure, but with calm presence. Kyo, usually so defensive and withdrawn, lets his voice trail off into silence more than once, and Toru doesn't interrupt. Instead, she just sits with him in that fragile stillness, her eyes reflecting understanding without judgment. This is not a moment where everything is solved or fixed. It's simply a moment where two people share space, letting the quiet do the talking. The breeze stirs the blossoms, and the world seems to exhale. There is healing in that hush. It doesn't ask the viewer to feel excitement or fear, only to rest in the comfort of a connection too soft to name. And in Spirited Away, a film filled with fantastical spirits and surreal landscapes, there is a small, often overlooked scene that radiates the kind of gentle magic that soothes the heart. After a day of fear, confusion, and transformation. Chihiro rides a silent train across a water-covered landscape. The tracks stretch endlessly ahead, submerged just below the surface, and the only sounds are the lapping of waves and the hum of the train. Shadowy figures, board and exit, faceless and ethereal, yet peaceful in their rhythm. Beside Chihiro, no face sits quietly, no longer monstrous or misunderstood, just still. The sun sets slowly, casting the sea and sky in golden and lavender hues. There is no music here, no dialogue, only the hypnotic motion of the train, the light shifting through the windows, and the quiet space carved out for contemplation. In this moment, it doesn't matter what has come before or what will follow. It is simply a ride through silence, through acceptance, through stillness. For many viewers, it becomes a gentle balm, a rare instance of narrative breath where nothing must be done except exist. Back in the simple townscapes of Non Biori, there exists 1,000 tiny pockets of calm stitched together by the slow passage of rural life. The show doesn't concern itself with plot or tension. It thrives in moments of pure presence. One such scene finds the girls lying in a grassy field as the day slips into dusk. Renge, the ever-curious and wonderfully strange youngest of the group, gazes up at the sky and hums a soft, aimless tune. A frog croaks somewhere nearby. A breeze rolls over the field, making the tall grass sway like waves. The others, Natsumi, Kamari, Hotaru, say little, their eyes half-lidded, their limbs sprawled comfortably in the fading sunlight. The camera lingers, unhurried, capturing the way the sky fades from blue to gold, the distant hum of crickets, the slow blink of a firefly rising into the air. It's a celebration of absolutely nothing in particular. No conflict, no conclusion. Just a moment in time where everything is okay and nothing needs to change. It is in this exact kind of aimless tranquility that the show shines brightest, offering a type of restfulness that settles deep into the bones. Even in the supernatural lull of Mushishi, a series steeped in mystery and the ephemeral, there are moments that ask us to stop, not for answers, but for observation. Ginko, the wandering expert of strange spiritual beings called Mushi, often finds himself alone in remote corners of the natural world. In one such instance, he sits by a gently flowing stream, notebook in hand, a cigarette trailing soft smoke into the morning mist. Birds call to one another from treetops unseen, and the trickle of water over smooth stones becomes the only constant sound. Ginko does not speak. He does not act. He watches. The sunlight filters through thick leaves in shifting patterns, dappling the mossy ground. And for a time, the show itself seems to hold its breath, allowing viewers to absorb the living world not as something to be sought, but as something to be felt. The rhythm of nature becomes a lullaby, the pulse of a world too often overlooked. It is the stillness between stories, the pause between breaths, that makes Mushishi so quietly transcendent. And then, in the familiar glow of home, Clannad, after story, delivers a scene so subtle and tender, it feels like a gentle whisper of comfort. Tomoya, a young man weathered by grief and love, returns home from work to find his daughter Ushio already asleep. The house is dim, quiet, except for the low hum of appliances and the distant sound of the wind. He kneels beside her futon, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. His touch, feather light. There is no swelling music, no spoken words, only the deep, aching tenderness of a parent watching over the fragile peace of a sleeping child. The warmth of the room, the quiet strength in his gaze, the gentle rise and fall of Ushio's breathing. These details combine into a scene that doesn't try to explain itself. It simply holds space for love in its quietest form. A love that asks nothing, that simply exists, like a candle burning softly in the dark. These moments, drawn from stories full of highs and lows, become sanctuaries of stillness. Whether it's riding a spirit train over a glassy sea, or listening to the wind rustle through tall grass, each of these quiet interludes invites us to stop reaching, to stop bracing, and to simply be. They are not meant to be remembered as climactic or groundbreaking. They are meant to be felt deeply and gently. The kind of feelings that don't wake you up, but lull you further into dreams. There's a certain kind of warmth that arises not from grand gestures or declarations, but from small routines and quiet companionship. And few moments capture this better than a scene from March Comes in Like a Lion, when Rei Kiriyama spends an evening with the Kawamoto sisters. The house is dimly lit, and the soft golden hue from the kitchen lamp bathes everything in a familiar glow. Akari is cooking, the gentle clatter of pots and the bubbling sound of miso soup filling the background, while Hina hums as she sets the table, her movements slow and thoughtful. Rei sits quietly, watching them work with a soft look in his eyes, the exhaustion of the outside world slowly melting from his face. There is no need for words here. The house itself seems to breathe with a quiet rhythm, a lullaby in the form of domestic life. When dinner is served, the steam from the hot food fogs the nearby windows, and everyone sits close, the chopsticks clicking gently against bowls. Laughter is small, almost whispered, and Rei's smile is the kind that rises slowly, like a candle flickering to life. It's not the food, or the warmth of the room, or the gentle way the sisters speak. It's the way all those elements wrap around Rei like a soft blanket, reminding him that he is no longer alone. That he is, without even realizing it, finally home. In Barakamon, another show drenched in slow, healing energy. There's a particular moment that arrives not in the middle of a great insight or breakthrough, but during a simple nap. Seishu Handa, a calligrapher searching for his place in the world, is lying outside beneath the eaves of a countryside home. A breeze drifts lazily through the tall grass, and Naru, the mischievous village girl, who's become like a little sister to him, is curled up nearby, her head on his arm, already asleep. The buzzing of cicadas hums steadily through the trees, and the sun dapples the world in shifting shadows. Seishu closes his eyes, letting go of the tension he carries in his shoulders, surrendering to the warmth of the moment. His thoughts quiet, and for a time, he is no longer chasing perfection, no longer trying to prove himself. He is simply breathing, simply existing. This moment, like so many in the series, feels like a meditation, a pause from expectation, from ambition, from everything but the softness of the present. The camera lingers on the rustling of leaves, the curl of a cat sleeping nearby, the dust dancing in the air. It's a moment that doesn't ask for attention, but offers peace freely to anyone willing to slow down and receive it. In the quiet fantasy of Natsume's Book of Friends, the world is filled with gentle spirits and moments that echo like dreams. Natsume, a boy who has always felt out of place because of his ability to see what others cannot, finds solace in a scene that feels suspended in time. After a long walk through the forest, he sits on a wooden porch with Nyanko-sensei, the round-bodied, often grumpy cat spirit who never leaves his side. The sun is setting, painting the sky with hues of rose and tangerine, and the trees rustle gently in the breeze. Natsume sips a cup of tea, the steam curling upward like a whispered memory. Nyanko-sensei lets out a contented sigh, and for once, there's no bickering between them, only a shared quiet, a silence that speaks louder than any conversation. Natsume leans back, letting the stillness wrap around him. It's in these soft interludes, between the encounters with spirits, between the ghosts of the past, that the heart of the show reveals itself. Not in the extraordinary, but in the peaceful ordinary, in being seen, in being accepted, in being safe. Even in a world as vast and wild as the ancient Magus's bride, there are moments so tender that they feel like a breath against the skin. In a cozy English cottage, nestled between old trees and magical creatures, Cheese is learning not just about magic, but about being cared for. One evening, Elias brings her a soft shawl while she reads by the fireplace. The light from the flames flickers across the room, dancing across the bookshelves and the curve of her cheek. She looks up, surprised, and Elias, strange and enigmatic, simply nods and walks away, awkward and unsure, yet full of intention. She wraps the shawl around herself and smiles, a small, barely there smile, but one that glows with something deeper than comfort. It's safety. It's a gesture so simple, but so new to her, that it sits in her heart like a lit candle. The silence of the house, broken only by the crackling of the fire, becomes a sanctuary. It's a moment that whispers of healing, of change, of the idea that sometimes love is not loud or obvious. It's a shawl draped around your shoulders by someone learning how to care. And in My Neighbor, Totoro, a movie already full of pastoral quiet and childlike wonder, there's a moment so soft and universal that it lives in the hearts of viewers long after the credits roll. Satsuki and Mei are waiting at the bus stop in the rain, their feet sinking slightly into the wet earth. The forest looms behind them, dense and dark, but not frightening, just ancient and quiet. The rain patters on their umbrellas in a rhythm that could lull anyone to sleep. And then, Totoro arrives. Enormous, silent, and still, he stands beside them, holding a leaf over his head for cover. Satsuki glances up, wide-eyed, but says nothing. Mei watches him with sleepy curiosity. The camera lingers, letting the rain fall, letting time stretch. Totoro receives the umbrella they offer, and in return, offers them the presence of something kind and unknowable. The moment is wordless, but rich with feeling. It's not about fantasy or spectacle. It's about presence, about sharing the rain with someone, about stillness being a gift. These scenes are not crowded with events or dialogue. They are not defined by action, but by absence. The absence of conflict, of urgency, of fear. They invite us to breathe slower, to listen to the small sounds, tea being poured, rain falling, fire crackling, a cat purring. These are the sounds of a world that wants nothing from us but our quiet attention, and in return, they offer peace. In a small seaside town, kissed by gentle waves and framed by golden sunsets, Amanchu presents a scene so serene that it feels almost like a watercolor come to life. Hikari and Futaba, two friends bound by a gentle curiosity and a growing connection, find themselves drifting lazily in the ocean just off the coast. The water is calm, barely rippling, and the sunlight filters through its surface like threads of gold. They float silently, buoyed by their wetsuits and the stillness of the moment, listening only to the faint gurgle of bubbles and the rhythmic beat of their own hearts. Futaba's anxious thoughts begin to dissolve into the silence, while Hikari's ever-present cheer has softened into a quiet presence beside her. No words are needed. They are wrapped in the womb of the sea, a world that demands nothing but stillness. Above them, seagulls wheel slowly through the sky. Below, the soft sway of seaweed dances like dreams. In this moment, Futaba feels small, but not in a frightening way. She feels cradled by the vastness, held by something ancient and kind. The ocean becomes a friend, and silence becomes comfort. Then there is Silver Spoon, an anime set not in cities or fantastical realms, but on a farm, a place where the coziest moments emerge from humility, hard work, and quiet reflection. One particular evening stands out. After a long day of chores, cleaning pig pens, and gathering eggs, Hachiken collapses into a chair outside the barn. His muscles sore, but his spirit strangely light. A soft breeze rustles the grass, and the fields stretch endlessly around him, painted orange by the setting sun. He bites into a piece of freshly baked bread given to him by a classmate, still warm, soft, and filled with the effort of honest labor. The warmth fills his mouth, his chest, his thoughts. His breath slows. The horses in the nearby stable let out low, lazy sounds as they settle in for the night. A dog curls up at his feet. The stars begin to prick the sky above, one by one. In the solitude of this moment, Hachiken feels something unexpected, a quiet pride. He is not the top of his class here, not surrounded by the things he once thought defined success. But here, beneath this vast sky, and among these gentle animals, he feels real. He feels enough. Whisper of the Heart, with its soft focus lens on adolescence and creativity, offers a moment that feels like sitting in a sunbeam. Shizuku, overwhelmed by the feeling of wanting to create something meaningful, finds herself in a quiet antique shop, surrounded by clocks, dusty books, and forgotten treasures. As she reads, she's enveloped by the scent of wood and paper, the ticking of clocks creating a peaceful rhythm. She looks up to see Seiji working quietly on his violin, the bow gliding over the strings as a delicate melody fills the space. There is no tension, no rush, only two young souls sharing a room and a dream. The air is full of possibility, of becoming, and of a kind of stillness that only arises when the world slows down and allows inspiration to bloom without judgment. Shizuku listens, her heart beating in time with the music, and the warmth of the space wraps around her like a favorite sweater. This is not a grand performance or a dramatic moment. It is the everyday magic of two people quietly sharing their passions side by side. Another moment unfolds in laid-back camp, where the scent of pine and the crackle of campfires create a lullaby in the wild. Rin, the quiet solo camper, sits by her tent under the wide, star-lit sky. A pot of soup simmers gently over the fire, and the flames cast dancing shadows across her open book. In the distance, the mountains loom silently, their outlines softened by moonlight. Her breath fogs slightly in the chilly air, but she is warm beneath her layers, and even warmer in her heart. She ladles the soup into her cup and takes a sip, closing her eyes as the heat spreads through her. There is no phone signal here, no urgent task to complete, no noise but the occasional rustle of animals or the whisper of the wind. It is the kind of peace that feels earned, like a gift for seeking stillness. As she stares into the fire, her thoughts drift, but don't cling. She is simply here, and that is enough. And then we return to Fruit's basket, where tenderness is woven into nearly every interaction. There's a quiet morning at Shigur's house, where Toru is making breakfast. The light streams in through the windows, catching dust in soft golden rays. Kyo sits nearby, silently peeling an orange, while Yuki reads a book, his fingers absent-mindedly turning pages. The kettle whistles gently in the background, and the smell of miso soup rises into the air. No one says much. The house breathes with them. There's a feeling that if you listen closely, you can hear the heartbeats of people trying to heal, trying to belong. Toru hums to herself as she sets out the bowls, her movements filled with care, with love given freely and without demand. As they sit together at the table, there is a fragile kind of happiness, one born not from perfection, but from the slow knitting together of broken pieces. In this ordinary breakfast, the world feels safe, and time seems to pause just long enough to exhale. Each of these moments shares a common thread, the embrace of quiet. They ask for nothing, demand no emotional extremes, and yet offer everything in return: peace, safety, presence. They do not shout, they whisper. And in those whispers, we are invited to rest, to be still, to feel, not with urgency, but with softness. These scenes, each so different in setting and story, remind us that coziness isn't about luxury or ease. It's about being seen, held, and allowed to simply be. In the soft country breeze of Non Non Biori, the world hums with a peace that feels like a forgotten lullaby. Renge Miyauchi, the youngest of her classmates, walks the quiet dirt path near her school, her recorder slung gently around her neck. The sun begins its descent beyond the green hills, casting everything in a warm amber hue. There are no honking cars, no distant shouting, only the rustle of the wind through tall grasses and the chirp of cicadas growing slower with the fading light. Renge pauses by a tree she's passed 100 times before. Today, for no particular reason, she decides to sit. Her legs dangle freely as she looks up at the clouds and lifts the recorder to her lips. The notes she plays aren't perfect. Some too sharp, others barely whispered. But that's never the point. It's not about skill, but about feeling, about being in the moment, with no expectations. The sound floats outward, gentle and imperfect, wrapping around the trees and fading into the dusk. There is no story to finish, no task to complete, just a small child and her quiet song in a sleepy world that moves at the pace of breath. Far to the snowy hills of Natsume's Book of Friends, Takashi. Natsume wanders under a sky scattered with stars. Nyanko-sensei lazily rolling beside him. The snow crunches softly underfoot as they walk without any real direction. Earlier that day, Natsume had returned another name, a yukai's name, back into the book. These moments were never loud or triumphant, just quiet releases, like untying a string that had been tangled for too long. Now, the spirit was gone, and the woods were still once again. Natsume lifts his gaze to the branches overhead, their limbs silver in the moonlight. There's a comfort in this ritual, in this quiet acceptance that everything passes, that not every goodbye needs to be loud to be meaningful. Nyanko-sensei mutters something about getting warm sake, but even he's unusually subdued. Natsume smiles faintly and keeps walking. The forest around them does not rush. It does not hurry them along. The world is content to wait, to let each step settle into the snow as they disappear deeper into the quiet woods. In March, comes in like a lion, the Kawamoto household is filled with the comforting clatter of evening life. Rei Kiriyama sits at the kitchen table, shoulders a little less hunched than usual, hands wrapped gently around a steaming mug of tea. Across from him, Hinata explains something with a soft intensity, her eyes sparkling with thought, while Akari bustles around preparing food. The youngest, Momo, is humming off-tune as she plays with her dolls, their tiny wooden feet tapping against the floorboards in a pleasant rhythm. Rei doesn't say much. He rarely does. But here, that's okay. No one asks more of him than he's ready to give. A bowl is placed in front of him, rice topped with a soft egg and simmered vegetables. The scent alone is enough to bring tears to the corners of his eyes, though he hides it behind the gentle steam rising from the bowl. He eats slowly, savoring every bite, every moment. He isn't thinking about shogai or school or the gnawing loneliness that follows him like a shadow. Right now, the only thing that matters is this table, this warmth, this unspoken kindness that asks nothing in return. On a distant island in Barakamon, Seishu Handa sits beneath the open eaves of his little house, watching the ocean stretch toward the edge of the sky. Naru, full of chaotic energy, is somewhere nearby chasing a hermit crab, her laughter echoing across the shore. Honda doesn't call out. He just listens, a brush resting beside him, the ink on the paper slowly drying as the sea breeze passes through. His calligraphy, once full of tension and sharpness, has started to shift, curves softening, lines relaxing, as if the island itself is teaching him how to breathe again. Naru suddenly appears beside him, shoving a seashell into his palm like it's treasure. "Look," she beams. "This one's got stripes." Honda blinks, looks at the shell, and then at her, nodding. "It's perfect," he says. And it is. Not because it's rare or valuable, but because it's a moment shared. a moment of noticing something small together. They sit there, side by side, the waves whispering their timeless rhythm in the background. It is enough. And then, in the soft, dreamlike world of Aria, Akari Mizunashi glides through the glowing canals of Neo-Venezia. The water carries her gondola gently, like a cradle, rocking in rhythm with a lullaby only she can hear. The city around her sparkles, not from artificial lights, but from the quiet magic of a place that knows how to be still. She hums as she paddles, not a tune with words or structure, just a floating sound that mirrors her mood. Cats watch her from stone walls, children wave from balconies, and the sky burns softly in the colors of twilight. Her route has no destination. She isn't rushing to meet anyone or to fulfill a task. She's simply out, breathing with the city, listening to its heartbeat. She rounds a corner and sees another Undine pass by. They wave at one another, smiling, then continue on. This is a world where peace isn't something to be earned. It simply is, offered freely to those who move slowly enough to receive it. In each of these scenes, there is no central conflict, no villain to defeat or secret to uncover. What matters is the feeling, the way time stretches when you sit quietly, when you listen without speaking, when you notice the light changing through a window. These stories don't chase drama. They whisper of contentment, of the kind of happiness that isn't loud or triumphant, but soft, steady, and rooted. The kind of happiness that feels like home. In the quiet dawn of Mushishi, the world awakens gently beneath a soft, pale light that barely stirs the sleeping earth. Ginko walks alone along a narrow forest path, his footsteps barely disturbing the carpet of fallen leaves and moss. The air is cool and fragrant with the scent of damp wood and wild flowers, a delicate perfume that lingers like a whispered secret. Around him, the forest breathes in gentle rhythms, the rustle of leaves in a mild breeze, the distant call of a bird welcoming the new day. The stillness is profound, a silence so full it feels as if the entire world holds its breath, waiting to reveal its hidden stories. Ginko's calm, reflective eyes scan the shadows between trees, searching not for danger, but for the subtle signs of Mushi, the elusive creatures that exist at the boundary between life and spirit. Their presence felt in fleeting glimpses and whispered sensations. His journey through these misty forests is both physical and spiritual, a meditation on the fragile balance of nature and the unseen forces shaping our world. With every step, he moves deeper into a realm where the ordinary and extraordinary intertwine seamlessly. The Mushi drift like ephemeral ghosts, their forms often invisible to the naked eye, yet their effects ripple through the environment in ways subtle and profound. A sudden chill, a strange light flickering in the undergrowth, or the gentle sway of a tree branch where no breeze blows, all are clues speaking of the Mushi's silent dance. Ginko listens, and watches with patient attentiveness, understanding that to disturb this delicate harmony would upset the intricate web of life itself. His presence is a quiet reassurance, a balm of calm in a world teetering between the seen and unseen. By a quiet stream, sunlight breaks through the canopy in golden shafts, illuminating the water as it murmurs softly over smooth stones. Ginkgo pauses, kneeling by the edge, and dips a small cup into the cool current. The water tastes of the earth itself, pure, crisp, and untouched by time's passing. This simple act of communion with nature grounds him, a reminder that life's greatest gifts often come in the humblest forms. Around him, life stirs gently. A dragonfly skimming the water's surface, the delicate flutter of a butterfly's wings, the faint rustle of tiny creatures hidden in the underbrush. These serene, unhurried moments are a sanctuary from the world's noise and haste. They whisper of timeless peace, a place to breathe deeply and simply be. In a nearby village, the day begins with quiet rituals that connect its inhabitants to the land and each other. The soft laughter of children playing among rice paddies blends with the gentle clinking of tools as farmers tend their crops. An elder carefully waters a small garden, each movement deliberate and tender, a silent prayer for growth and renewal. These small acts of care form the heartbeat of the village, a steady rhythm carrying it through seasons of change. Ginkgo watches from the forest edge, a silent guardian, moved by the resilience and warmth flourishing here, despite passing years and unseen sorrows. Though burdened by knowledge of suffering and loss, his heart finds solace in the simple joys weaving a tapestry of belonging and hope. As the sun climbs higher, the forest awakens fully, vibrant with life and possibility. Rays of light dance through leaves, casting playful shadows that shift with the breeze. The air hums softly with birdsong and the distant tap of a woodpecker on ancient bark. Mushrooms sprout quietly from mossy logs, the delicate scent of blooming wildflowers filling the space between trees. Ginkgo's path leads through fields of tall grasses, rippling like waves, each blade catching light in fleeting brilliance. The mushi reveal themselves in brief flashes, glowing specks flickering at vision's edge before vanishing into mystery. Their presence is a reminder of hidden wonders beneath everyday life's surface, waiting patiently for those who dare look beyond. As evening approaches, the forest slows again, shadows stretching long and blending into twilight's tapestry. Ginkgo finds a quiet clearing beneath an ancient cedar, its gnarled branches reaching wide like welcoming arms. Settling on soft moss, he feels the cool earth beneath, solid and eternal. The sky deepens to rich indigo, sprinkled with stars twinkling faintly, distant and eternal. A gentle breeze stirs leaves, carrying faint pine and earth scents. The world feels suspended between moments, a delicate balance of day and night, light and shadow. In peaceful stillness, Ginkgo closes his eyes, breathing deeply, attuning to the forest's pulse and the mushi's quiet presence around him. In the night's calm, the forest speaks softly, whispers on the wind, rustling small creatures beneath canopy, gentle dew dripping from leaves. These form a lullaby, a melody soothing the soul and inviting quiet reflection. Ginkgo's thoughts drift slowly, serene and unburdened, contemplating life's cycles and all things' interconnectedness. His journey is not of battles or conquests, but understanding and respect for delicate threads binding the world. In this quiet space, profound peace exists, a recognition that even in mystery and uncertainty, beauty lies in presence and being alive. The forest's whispered stories and moments, shared between creature and spirit, invite us to slow down and listen, to find comfort in quiet spaces and cherish life's soft rhythms. They remind us peace is found not in grand triumphs, but in kindness, patience, and gentle presence. As you lay your head down, let these katsu anime moments wrap like a warm embrace, carrying you softly into calm, tranquil worlds. In night's unfolding, may comfort's gentle light and life's soothing lullaby guide you into restful sleep, where dreams are touched by calm beauty, a world whispering softly of hope and quiet joy. The forest's soft murmur, Mushi's delicate dance, and land's quiet strength blend into a serene tapestry, a world where every breath is a prayer, every step meditation, every moment a chance for peace. Let these gentle stories be balm for your mind, a quiet song carrying you into sleep's embrace, where dreams are cradled by calm beauty and whispers of endless hope and quiet joy.